This is also on your tablet. It's a several hundred-page document. This has to be approved every 2 years. The Board of Supervisors did approve last year, but there is a list of changes that I have included. It's just a formality that this board has to approve their performance contract each year. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Any discussion, board, or questions? We have a motion to approve this contract.
So moved.
Mr. Jeter made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Manus, second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Big H Company Real Estate lease, Ms. Starnes.
This is a lease that we've had for the past 3 years with the Big H Company, and it's for the victim witness office space. And the lease agreement is on your tablet. It will be a 2-year lease, August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2026. I just need authorization to approve that lease and authorization to sign and send back.
Questions or discussion?
And that's already in the budget and covered by everything.
Yes, it's in the budget at the current amount, so when we amend, we will have to put the additional in there for the lease amount. I believe we were at $530 or $540, and it will be $700 going forward.
Real estate's going up.
Other questions or comments? We have a motion for Ms. Starnes to take care of this business.
So moved.
Ms. Addington made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Manus, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda under new business is Scott County Courthouse. Ms. Starnes.
Let me text Mike to give him a heads up. I put together a PowerPoint that I want to go through today. We've went back for about 12 years on items that we have upgraded at the courthouse, and this is just a background for everybody to show the number of offices just within the last 10 years that used to be in the courthouse that have now been, moved out of the courthouse because of space, because the court system just continues to grow. So I'll go through this. I won't take a lot of time. Several months ago, you all gave us, the authorization to move forward with talking to Mosley Architects, who's our A&E firm for the courthouse, about some options instead of utilizing 2 properties like was planned, to move everything to the courthouse site to see if that would create some savings instead of rehabbing a building and doing our inmate holding and Sally Port at the courthouse. So I do have those costs in, so we'll go over those as well. So the first thing, 12 years ago, we did a bell tower renovation at the courthouse. We invested about $288,000 on that project, and included with that was some upgrades to the staircase in the foyer as well. In 2014, this is when things really started happening at the courthouse as far as moving offices around. APCA did have space downstairs in the community services building when it was originally built. So they were moved to the health department building down in Daniel Boone. And that freed up a small office area downstairs where it was reinvented, renovated for the treasurer, commissioner of revenue, and the building official to move down there. So we did that in 2014, and the sheriff's office investigators moved into the former commissioner of revenue space there at the courthouse. And then the main stairway was enhanced as well at the courthouse, and it provided additional accessibility. Then in 2015, we had a fire at our animal shelter that was located at the landfill at the time. A new facility was constructed in Daniel Boone on property that we already owned there. It was $165,000 construction cost. The animal and litter control officers were working in the courthouse until this point. So that was 2 more offices that were moved out of the courthouse at that time in 2015. Also in 2015, it was decided to add the 2nd floor of this building. When the building was originally constructed, it was constructed structurally so that a 2nd floor could be added in the future. So that took place. That was a $2.8 million investment. What a deal compared to today's construction cost. So that moved the county administrative offices, juvenile court services, and economic development onto this 2nd floor, and we still had quite a bit of shelf space left for future needs. Around the same time, the annex building where the sheriff's office was housed was deemed unusable. That building was actually condemned. So that the sheriff's office moved to the county administrative office space, which was under the library building where they're currently housed today. And then that opened up additional space in the courthouse so that the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office could expand. So that is where they are currently, in the 1st and 2nd floor, above each other, I guess, for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. So the courthouse renovation in 2016, we renovated the circuit court room. That was $171,000. The circuit court judges at that time moved into the old library building, which is the little house beside of the courthouse. So they used that for office space. And in 2017, 2018, we spent $35,000 to build out shelf space here on the 2nd floor, and that's when your treasurer, commissioner of revenue, voter registrar, building official, and EDA offices moved around. Voter registrar, we had received notice that the DMV building rent was going to be pretty astronomical increase, so it was more feasible to bring them under the same roof as the other offices and make that a better situation for the citizens as well, because everybody's located centrally. And then social services were working in closets. They were just jam-packed and had no extra space. So they renovated the treasurer commissioner space downstairs and moved into that. So on the 1st floor of this building, we have the health department and social services take up the whole bottom floor. And then in the court, we did some minor repairs to the courthouse. We painted the columns and the exterior trim. And then we also renovated the circuit court clerk's office space, which is much more user-friendly now for the citizens. It's a really nice work area. In 2019, 2020, the probation offices were asked to vacate space in the courthouse. The judges were asking for another hearing room where they could meet and have, you know, a more intimate setting for J and DR hearings. So we asked probation to move out. So we spent $43,000. I need $43,000 on that renovation. It did build 2 judges' offices in that hearing room, and then we spent about $11,000 to renovate some space for the Scott Service Program in the old jail building. And we put a new roof on the courthouse during that period as well. So in 2021, the courthouse just kept expanding, and we sent out an RFP for services to conduct a courthouse space needs study. The goal of this study was to get the needs and the growth projection for the next 20 years. So there was many meetings with all the individual offices with Mosley, and they had forms they filled out and completed on what they thought their growth would be for 20 years. And we went through that process, and Mosley came up with 5 suggestions and renderings based on all that feedback. So once that was brought to the Board of Supervisors, it was a huge price tag. Those went from $26 million to $36 million. And the board just, couldn't afford to do the project. So we started looking at other options of what we could do. That's when we purchased the Compton building with the intention of moving the Commonwealth Attorney's Office into that building so that would free up some space where we could do some additional space in the courthouse. So these were the 5 options that we had. Like I said, they ranged from 26 million to 37 million. They were adding additions. One was a completely new rebuild. So a lot of different options they looked at, and they came and did their presentation to the board. But because of cost, like I said, it wasn't moved forward. So in that 2022 study, the cost escalation factors, 5 years was at 18%, 10 years, 30%, and 20 years, 43%. So the longer we go, the higher everything's going to get. I mean, you saw the $2.8 million it cost to build out this whole second floor just a few years ago. Since COVID, everything, as everybody knows, is just crazy expensive. So in 2023, which was just last year, we were having issues with the old jail and felt like it was not safe to have Scott Service workers in there, as well as the inmates. We were using that for inmate holding still for their court cases. The regional jail transports those over and would put them in holding until their time in the courthouse. We felt like that wasn't a safe situation. So we ordered a custom Connex container box that was placed behind the courthouse for the inmate holding, and we're currently still using that. Scott Services was also moved from the old jail building to a rented space, and we also started hearing rumblings about the Compton building may not be the best fit because of security and some other issues for the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. So earlier this year, we came to you and got an agreement with E. Green to do a demolition project of the annex and the old jail building. The project is still ongoing. It should be finished up within the next month or so. We also have the Compton building on the market to sell. And then we talking to Mosley about developing something at the courthouse that would work for inmate holding, a Sally Port, and for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And that's where we're at today. So I have a proposal from Mosley Architects to get us through construction administration if you did a project. And what they have proposed is an expansion of approximately 10,400 square feet at the courthouse. The cost of their services is $406,000, and that includes the development of the schematic, the design development, construction documents, bidding, and construction administration. And I know this is hard to see, but the right corner was phase 2 of what we were already paying for. So you have your schematic design there of the Sally Port and of the inmate holding. Drawn in by hand around the back of the courthouse and the side would be new addition that would be for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And that's on 1 and 2 floors. So that's where the 10,400 square feet would come into play. And based on my estimate with inflation from the 2022 prices, I have that estimated to be about a little under $7 million project. The debt service for 15 years on that at a 4.5% interest rate would be about $678,000 a year. So I don't expect an answer today. I just need to know how this board wants to proceed with the Mosley contract. That's a lot of money that doesn't need to be spent if we do not have a project plan to go forward. So my ask is for you to take this information and mull it over, and, you know, if you need to talk amongst yourselves throughout the month, and just, you know, come back in September with a path forward. I think that's where we need to go, either no project or a project. But something will have to be done in the near future to handle the inmate holding situation. So any questions?
Inmate holding, if we do it like it's on this plan, we'll take away where the Commonwealth Attorney's offices are.
That's correct.
And that's the reason we're having to go back to the east and around the building. Is there any way that we could leave Commonwealth Attorney where they are and do a sally port around them and leave them where they are, and not do the north and the west building that's been penciled in?
I can talk to Mosley about that option and see what they think would work.
Bill, can you bring that back up on
I've got it.
the, sorry.
Can you put us to the whole slide view? Or play slideshow?
So, Mr. Bricky, you were thinking the Sally Port being #1 priority.
I think it is, yes.
The inmate holding would be
Inmate
the
holding.
number
Yeah,
one.
inmate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, see now on the right side, in the L that goes down, that's where the Commonwealth Attorney is now. And if we go with a new proposal, it would include the back part, the north side and the west side, to build for offices, and or maybe all that would be Commonwealth Attorney, correct?
Yeah, it would be.
And the upstairs too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the upstairs.
They would be upstairs too, Commonwealth would.
Yes. If we could leave them where they are now and just redo the east side for a sally port, you know, a inmate portal, that would really cut down on construction costs.
Yeah.
Would that lock us out of any expansion in the future, though, if we
That's-
want to continue to expand?
Well-
That's one of the things that we asked them when they worked on this, was to make sure it was done in a way, because, you know, it may be 25 years from now, and it might be way past our time, but at some point in the future, it's gonna have to be done, whenever that is. So we don't wanna do anything now that would create a cost burden in the future on how it's designed from here.
Yeah, we don't want the future board of supervisors cussing us.
Yeah, what they were thinking, you know. But they did do this with that in mind.
Okay, good.
Is the inmate holding taking up all of the space, both floors?
It was inmate holding on the first floor, and on the second floor of that, it was for victim witness. So we wouldn't need to lease the space for them. It was moving them back into the courthouse as well. And then there was also an office space for a J&DR clerk, because, you know, from our conversations with them in the past, they had petitioned to the state to split those clerks' offices. And there's nowhere currently in the courthouse for that split to take place if that is something that they are wanting to proceed with.
How far out on that west side can we come out?
Not very far.
Not
The road's
much
right
further
there.
than that, because there's a building there. Like, that's the property line. Because the way they have this drawn, you would come down that street, like where the old jail was, and come down the hill into that sally port. I don't have a laser, but you can see the door cut there. That's where the inmate van would come into, and all the loading and unloading would take place in there.
Okay, we have one more option for space. The old library sits down in front of that. And if we could put victim witness in there instead of in the courthouse, that would house victim witness, wouldn't it? The office space.
It would.
And that would take room out of the Sallyport area and Commonwealth Attorney area if we could put them in the old library. And I understand that possibly we can do that, take that building.
I thought one of us was supposed to be looking into that already.
Did you talk to the judge?
I haven't, but I will. Which judge is it?
Kilgore.
Kilgore.
It's called the library now, or his office? What's he referring to?
I call it the old library. I don't know what it's called.
It's just their office space.
It's a storage area.
And one usually for the victim witness.
No,
Yes.
victim witness, yes. I don't know if these things would make any difference or not. But we could do away with having to do what Frida said had been penciled in on the north and the west and leave the Commonwealth Attorney where they are, move victim witness into the library, and then build a Sallyport some way to maybe come over behind the court. I don't know what's underneath that, where you start, where the courtroom is. Is there offices back there that you could bring an entrance in there from a Sallyport? That's not the courthouse wall, is it?
What are you talking about?
Right here. No, there's offices back there.
The pink line is the wall, or whatever color that
Okay,
is.
could you build a Sallyport maybe here, back here, to bring them in this way somewhere? Because there are offices here, aren't there?
No. There's offices like right here. That's the judge's chambers and
Yeah.
offices. And this is the courtroom. So this is the
So
current
that is
wall.
courtroom, okay, okay.
If you put it back there, you just have to make sure it can be designed around for the future.
Yeah, if you could find somewhere on that wall for prisoners to come in through an enclosed Sallyport.
Okay.
One thing that the initial study, looked out 20 years, and one of the most significant increases was the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for whatever reasons, the way they have to do court cases and appeals and things like that. But their office demand, space-wise, increased significantly. So leaving them where they are and just building a Sallyport doesn't address that issue at all. And we may be looking in 5-10 years to building this space out. And in 5 to 10 years, having a 40% increase in cost. So
If you went ahead and built the Sallyport on the back side, on the north side, and that would leave the east side to extend later for the Commonwealth Attorney wouldn't build. If you didn't have that new part on the east side there, the Sallyport is not going to take that much.
what do you mean on the east side? East side, that side?
This.
To the right?
Yeah. If you could do a Sallyport up here. Oh, excuse me. If you could do a Sallyport some way here.
That is the
Well,
That is the
no.
Sallyport.
Forget that. Do a Sallyport right here with an entrance out here somewhere, extend it out there till you can come in. And then that would leave this whole area later to add to for the Commonwealth Attorney. Leave them there for now. And when you need to expand with Commonwealth Attorney, you've got room out here to build for them.
Well,
See what I mean?
your Sallyport, is like a van coming in to unload,
Yeah.
like a bay.
Right.
And then those other little cut-up sections there are holding cells.
These are holding cells.
Yeah, female, male, juvenile, and CO places to be.
Correctional officer.
But
Yeah.
you could do the Sally Port in the L, the upside down L, with the holding cells right there, and then not even mess. I see where you're going.
Not even-
And not even mess with Commonwealth.
That cuts it a whole lot by not having to do all this. By putting the Sally Port, like you said, here and out through here.
Yeah.
And then save this later to build out here to the other buildings for Commonwealth Attorney if we need it.
I see what he's.
Down the road. Right now, that would, you know, I don't know about cost projections down the road, but that would certainly today cut down on everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the cost projections, we're saying it's gonna be 678,000 per year. Now, 40% puts that right close to $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
That's a chunk of change. For 15 years, it would have to be 7 million. That's a lot. We need to figure out some way to get that number down. Sorry, I don't have any solutions, just questions.
Where is victim witness now, Frida?
Where are they
They
located?
can afford it at this time.
It's in one of, I believe it's on the second
If we
floor.
could get it down to manageable size, I think we could. Something.
I'd have to look, it might not be on this drawing,
Kevin's taking in on interest.
but I think it's in this
That
section
range.
right here.
Yeah.
That's not affected to the taxpayer.
It's not dropped down on this one.
Over and above. See how
We got it on the original.
Taxpayer.
But now that's projected where they are, correct?
Yeah, they're currently in rented space.
Rented space. Now, that's what we approved earlier.
Which would save you over $700.
Reverse.
If we could use that old library, I call it.
Library.
Yeah.
I will find out, with Mr. Bale, his thoughts, and then let you know in September.
I told somebody, this really weighs on me having to, the money situation we're in right now. And, so be thinking about it.
One thing about that, the longer you wait, the more it costs.
That's the hard part, right?
That's true.
And then when you spend it, you gotta spend the interest. So it's between a rock and a hard spot.
Any other discussion, any ideas? Bill?
No, sir.
Well, one big item was the relocation to the Riverside property. Use the Justice Center over there, which would require a referendum. But remodeling cost, what would that,
What would it cost to purchase that property from the EDA? Because I reckon they have to pay back all the grants that they use, because all that was grant
I'd say
funded.
it would be over 2 million.
Over 2 million?
Heights, my guess.
Okay.
Plus the building.
2 million plus the building?
Plus the building.
Okay. I don't know that it's really saving much money. But I mean, it's something to explore.
Well-
At least get the numbers on.
one of the problems here is parking, and you're on a hill. And that would be eliminated at the other location. Looks like a lot of Band-Aids.
Still gonna bring it to the courthouse.
Yeah. And adds extra expense on transportation.
Transportation.
Yeah.
So-
And if we could turn Riverside into something profitable, there goes some tax money later.
Well, we just approved the ordinance for the daycare, and I'm working on that. So we'll see if we can at least get some services for the people of this county in here. I think that's probably the biggest thing we're lacking, is services for the people.
There is
Sorry,
daycare now.
we're getting off on a different rabbit hole there. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag us down that way.
Okay, just be thinking about it, and anything else on courthouse? move on to the next one. Frida, you got anything else? Okay, next on the agenda is Ms. Kegley.
I'm happy to answer any questions. I wanted to ask your all's authority to advertise for any needed public hearings in the next couple of months. Every year I go through the General Assembly changes to see if we need to update our ordinances. And I'm working on that, so if I run across something, if I can already have that authority, then we could save a little time advertising those public hearings and having them. So if I could have,
I'll make that motion that will give you the authority to amend the ordinances.
to advertise the public hearings,
for the public hearings.
if needed.
If needed.
Ms. Agnew made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Manning, second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That carries.
That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Now, I just wanted to brag on you for just a second. I've had several questions about ordinances, and we went through both the solar and the cell phone tower and the daycare stuff, and I just wanted to thank you for your service on that. You did a great job on writing all that up, considering it. I think we probably have one of the best packages for both citizen protection and the expansion of industry in the state of Virginia right now with those regulations. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully I can talk to the folks from up in Nicholsville and assuage some of their fears. Thank you for being open to that. Thank you. And I know you've helped Mr. Castile here work through some of the information around zoning and slicing up farms and things like that. We really appreciate all the work.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, County Administrator's Report.
You have the claims in your packet, the green sheet. The cash balance in the general fund after claims is $6,398,606.67. There wasn't a comparison with last year because it's when we were transferring over to Munis and first going live. So next month you will see the comparison back for the 4 years. As far as claims for the month, early claims totaled $746,193.41. Current claims are $909,166.74 for a total claims for the month $1,655,360.15. This was the month for the first quarter of the regional jail payment, so that was $562,796.30. So that's why claims are a little more than usual. If you see anything and you're over 5,000 list you have any questions about, just let me know. I will point out $110,000 to Temper. That came from the state and was supposed to went to them directly, but was deposited here, so we had to write that out. That wasn't any county funds going to Temper, just as a note on that one.
Were you going to mention the reconciling of the regional jail? That amount? It's a pretty good number.
That we got back.
Yep.
I don't have that in front of me. The regional jail board met last week. We were getting back additional funding. That was just that we had overpaid last fiscal year. Some years you have to pay extra in the next budget year. Some years you get money back. This was a year that we did get money back. I think total was around, I'm guessing, $300,000. We've got that in our budget, except for $103,000. So that $103 will go toward the deficit where you took out $800,000+ to balance the budget. So that'll help make that look a little less.
Hopefully with Ted and Kevin's delinquent tax together, this is going to go down even further.
Yeah, hopefully we'll end the year better than we anticipated. It's always the goal. So that's all I have on claims, unless you have any other questions. I need approval for $1,655,360.15.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Glover made the motion, Mr. Manus second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under miscellaneous, I have a couple of things. The first one is a request from the sheriff's office for some additional funding for a grant cycle 2-year period that was from January 2023 to December 2024. To make that grant extend for the whole grant period of the end of this year, we would need to add $23,299.31. We do have the money coming from the Regional Improvement Commission that could cover that cost. So if that's something that you want to do, I can give you that breakdown of how we would do that request.
Any discussion, or do we have a motion?
I do have a discussion. Does the school system work with this coordinator?
He does do work in the school system, but not for them directly. He's directly under the sheriff's office.
Someone had mentioned to me about the sharing with the school system on the $23,000. Since they would be working with this person, and they did get benefits from it.
How would it work for people that are homeschooled in Scott County? Would they have to pay additional, like if he's a youth coordinator?
Right.
Right, so that's all youth in Scott County, including those that are homeschooled. And then, we have a private school in Scott County, Kid City Christian School. Would they need to pay into that as well?
That's a good question. It'd be interesting to find out how many of those students would fall within those two classifications.
Of youth?
The homeschool plus the church school.
I'm not, are you saying that they're not youth?
No, I'm saying how many of those in those two categories would be in his program.
Oh, right. He goes all the way past.
I just don't,
7 to.
the church school kids, I just wonder how many he's working with. I'd say that.
How many of the actual public school kids are he working with?
Now, he's working with high-risk students, is that correct?
From what I understand, yes.
Yes.
Right, so
And what I'm saying, I doubt the church school's gonna have many high-risk kids.
kids.
I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but
You'd be surprised. Sometimes high-risk kids can come from any kind of household, even really well-to-do households.
When I mentioned the school system, when we were talking with the sheriff and the deputy, they said the school system had already, free to correct me if I'm wrong, and Danny, but they had already picked up one extra one this year, hadn't they?
They have agreed to pay part of Michaela, the grant writer's salary, because she is the one that's in charge of doing the reporting and the filing for the school resource officer grants. So they are contributing to her. They've also started contributing for their trash pickup, for accounting and purchasing services just in the last few months. So that was why it was my suggestion not to go to the school system and ask them to put in on this position.
Right.
But,
They have been making some efforts.
but it's still, it puts the county as having to pay it all, and the school system's not having to pay any on it.
If you remember, Danny, that deputy said that this year that they didn't ask for enough in the grant.
Right.
At the end of the
Correct.
year, he's going to ask for more, over 100, which will cover it.
Okay.
So if we can pick this up through fiscal year or till December?
Till December.
Till December, then that'll take care of it.
Yeah.
They'll be able to pay it in the future. And this money is this $23,299 is extra. It's
Just be a one-time thing.
one-time
just a
thing, and
one-time
it's extra. It was not in our budget to start with. We picked it up since.
And it has to be used for public safety or
Yes.
schools or transportation. So the money's there. We're getting more
It's not
than we budgeted,
Right.
and it's
not
from the
taxpayers'
casino
money.
revenue.
This
It's
is
from
the best way to
regional
go, I
right.
think.
Commission,
Yeah.
so it's not taxpayer technically. Right.
And, everybody benefits, the whole community benefits, not
Yes,
just the
it's
school
not just the
system,
youth.
but also the businesses, the people, everyone benefits when everyone is a little bit better taken care of.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we do it.
I'll second.
Darrell made the motion, Mr. Manus second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so I have a part B to that then. We need to appropriate and transfer $23,299.31 from Fund 1050 Regional Improvement Funds to Sheriff's Office 31290 Operation Ceasefire Grant, $17,500 to line item 1000-31290-401700 grant salary, $2,042 to line item 1000-13290-402100 FICA, $3,533.25 to line item 1000-31290-402210 VRS, and also $224.06 to line item 1000-13290-40240 VRS.
So moved.
Ms. Addington made the motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Jeter second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries.
And then one other thing, the Virginia Association of Counties Annual Conference will be in November, and we have 3 rooms that are available for each county in the state to attend. The estimated cost is about $1,000 per person for the conference registration and 2 nights hotel. So it'd be my recommendation that no more than 2 attend that. That would leave some money for someone or a couple to go to the legislative reception in January, or the legislative meetings. But totally, it's up to you either way. I mean, you can always.
I went last year, but last year my wife had a meeting up there too, and we kind of double dipped between us and the school system. So if anybody else wants to go, you're
Is
more
it
welcome.
August the 5th?
It's November 10th through the 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's very informative, a very good meeting to go to.
Registration is open and it does fill fast.
I'd like to go to January's meetings because I didn't get to go this past year.
That's rich.
So I personally would love to go in January and drop out of the November. I don't want to go because of my job too. So if somebody wants to go in November, I say go for it.
I could probably swing the November one, but I'll leave it open if anybody else wants to go.
Put Mr. Manus down. He volunteered. That was a volunteer.
You'll have a good time. It is a good.
It's a good conference.
Conference.
I want to
It
go
really is.
particularly for issues with VDOT. I've been talking with several people at VACO, and we're trying to get VDOT to reallocate some of their money to the dirt road fund. So we're thinking, 5-6 times the money in there. It probably won't be that much, but shoot, even if we could just get $1, that would just be a little bit more. And that's more for Scott County, so I really.
Do
push
you
that.
get holidays off?
Some.
That is like a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and it's that November holiday,
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
I'll see when I can swing,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure I've got the PTO to do it. Fingers crossed.
Okay, so Chris, I'll check with you before I do your registration. Okay.
I mean, if nobody else wants to go, I'll go for the November. But I
It's
went
number
last
2.
year. I went last year, so if that's somebody else wants to,
You will go, Danny?
it's at the,
I'll take that as a.
what's the
Tad's
hotel?
allowed.
What's the hotel?
Omni Homestead.
Yeah, the Omni Homestead.
Not really.
It's swanky.
I would love to go, but I
It's
really
really
want
nice.
to go to January.
And it is a good conference.
And I definitely do not have any PTO time to, just because of my dad, so I took off for that.
Those 2 would be perfect.
Barrel too.
I would
Your
love to go.
district, you guys meet.
Those
I
two.
can't swing it.
Well, I mean, do you want to go?
Okay.
Maybe next year.
I mean, 2 don't have to go.
Definitely,
But
Just wanted to make
if you
sure
wanna go.
said something there.
Of course I do. That place is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is.
And,
I saw the draft agenda. It's got some good stuff on it.
okay. Oh, will we hear about will we hear about the?
You'll hear about that before then.
Really?
Yeah, that should be any time now. Yeah.
We wrote a VACO award for the
Scott Service Program.
Scott Service Program.
Each year, the Virginia Association of Counties takes applications for awards throughout, and so does the National Association of Counties. We've never won a VACO award, but we have 2 National Association of Counties, and they're back with the board's picture. One is for Scott Service, and one was for the Stony Creek Park that we did up at the Devil's Bathtub.
We submitted the VACO one this year.
Yeah, so we should hear on the VACO one either this week or next week.
I hope so. It's good, I think it read well to be able to, if another county wanted to adopt what we have done, they could do so. You know, it read that way, I think, I hope.
And I have one other thing, civic clerk, I don't know if you all are using the old way or the new way on your tablets, but this will be the last month that we use the old way, so everybody needs to be using civic clerk. We won't do the agenda the old way in September. I meant to do that last month and forgot to mention it. So I did want to make note of that. If you need help with civic clerk before the next meeting, please get with us, Darryl, and we'll help you out.
Moving on.
Oh, well, good.
But it ain't brought up no information today.
We'll work on
Here it is now, but when you click on one of the items,
it. It's on there.
it brings up this comments and stuff.
And with civic clerk, there's also a public portal, so anything that's in our packet, the citizens can go on our website to get to civic clerk, and all the information that you have is out there for them as well, unless it's a closed session item, and we can lock that out. So that's all I have.
I like this one.
Okay, we'll move on to our county department reports. Mr. Dishman.
And it was here.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you all?
We should say afternoon, right?
Well, no, is that right? Don't want to disagree with the supervisor, but
You can, it's okay.
it is still before noon. I've got a little different style of report. I think I've given you this style of report in the past, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but a lot of you are, if not all of you, are new since then. No, not all of you. You remember. And maybe Stephanie was here, I don't know. How long have you been here? 4 years? 3 years?
4.5 now.
Okay, you were here then. I think it was in 21 or 22. But anyway, rather than give all those details on the projects, I've given you some facts and figures on the PSA. I thought it might be helpful for some of the new members to see that. Just a lot of information about the PSA, number of customers, number of treatment facilities, a number of sources, source capacity, treatment capacity, number of employees, information about our infrastructure. So it's interesting to see that we have, over approximately 300 miles of water main and about 26 water pump stations, 16 water storage tanks, 7 wastewater pump stations. Like it says, 6 treatment plants, 3 water and 3 wastewater. We have staffing in those numbers listed, 33 total employees. That includes 3 part-time folks. We're proud that we have 17 licensed water or wastewater plant operators, and or 17 licensed by the state in water or wastewater. Some of those are not licensed to operate a plant, but they're licensed to operate a distribution system. And then we also have 8 employees with CDL, either Class A or Class B. I also want to highlight, which I highlighted to our board a few months back, that we have not raised our rates for 3 consecutive years, and our rates remain very favorable compared to not only the average in the Lennox-Wisco Planning District Commission amongst all municipalities, water systems, wastewater systems, but compared to Lee County PSA, Wise County PSA, and the town of Gay City, our rates are significantly lower. And that's a testament to the commitment by our board and to maintain that and the fiscal responsibility of our staff, and they work very efficiently, and so one of our goals is to maintain rates as low as possible. And on the right-hand side, you see those construction projects lists, those that are under construction. Since I was here in April, we have started construction on 2 or 3 of these. The Weber City water main replacement project has gotten underway since then. And the multi-community, we've started work Federal Road and Shoals Lane, starting soon up in Hunters Valley to go out of Hunters Valley East, and also Hunters Valley West, go out there further. And we started on a long-term water supply study since April. And we continue to make progress. We're almost done with Upper Cliff Mountain Phase 2 and Duffield Wastewater Plant Phase 2 and Daniel Boone Sewer. So those will hopefully be off the list by the time I come back, and hopefully in December. And then hopefully by then we'll have bid out the Yuma and Hilton Sewer Project and the Central Scott Water Project. And then there's several others that our board has approved for funding that we are looking for funding for, and then several on the list that are yet to be evaluated for funding. But there's a lot to keep us busy, not just the operation and maintenance of the infrastructure and providing the safe drinking water and the keeping the rivers and streams clean with adequate and excellent wastewater treatment, but also extending service to the betterment of public health for water and public sewer service, and trying to have fun doing it.
We had a water outage in Nicholsville there. The fire department stepped up.
Yeah. Wendell?
Yes.
Wendell Burke. Yes, Wendell Burke. Thank you, Wendell Burke, and your fire department guys for helping us haul water that day. We had a problem with some wells were getting low, and there was some equipment trouble too, and so we managed to not run out of water, managed to keep water in our tank. So what we did, we hauled water from a roadside spring. It was Bush Mill is where we hauled it from, and hauled it to our water plant and treated it through the water plant.
Has your well straightened out now, Mike?
Yes, those wells, yes.
So it goes out over the TV. I'll ask you now instead of next week. The Yuma and Hilton Sewer, do you have any timeline on that?
We hope that will be bid out this fall. So to get permission to advertise for bids. So we're almost there to be able to submit the last thing to our funding agency, USDA, Rural Development. And it depends on how long it takes them to review it and to give us permission to advertise for bids. But we're very hopeful that it could be advertised this fall.
Did the lady come and see you about the drilling under the road? Miss Chapman?
She did. She did. Judy.
Joy?
Joy Chapman. She did. And I can't remember what we did, but I do remember she came by. Oh yes, I remember now. So we're waiting. I think she can wait on the project till the project comes. Well, actually, she went and talked to the engineer, so I don't know what they worked out.
You're okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's the gathering of user agreements going in Fairview?
I don't know. You tell me.
I've heard they've been down there getting some.
I thought you were passing them out. I didn't.
Oh, no.
Oh,
I haven't
okay.
been passing them out yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
I was going to pass them out if they had a hard time.
Oh, well, they've had a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's a hard crowd.
yeah, in Fairview? Oh, Fairview's a hard crowd. Well, you live there, so I'm not gonna, you live there, I'm not gonna.
I live in Fairview, I can say.
I like. But, so the Lane Group is working on that project called Fairview Phase 2. It's on number 5 down there in the 3rd category on the right. And do not have sufficient signed user agreements, really, is the bottom line. You're trying to do a project that would involve Lee County PSA and in Scott County, but it's not getting off the ground due to the low number of houses, and the cost per house is extremely high.
I'd love to sit down and talk with y'all and see who you have user agreements from and who
Sure.
I could go talk to.
Sure, and you can, and I would probably just refer you to the project engineer
Okay.
on that.
And that's Lane Group.
Mm-hmm. John Broski, the Lane Group in Big Stone Gap.
Yeah, I've talked to him before,
Yeah,
but that was before they went down in there and started trying to gather user agreements. So
yeah.
we'll see if
So
we can get you a few
we're
more.
also working on an extension, Phase 2 of Robinette Valley, and it looks to be a good project, relatively good. There's some folks down there that have been to our meeting who are out of water, very similar, exactly like what was going on up on Black Gum Lane. And we just applied for funding for Robinette Valley Phase 2. So Jonathan Phelan, if you are listening, you'll be glad to hear that. And I'll try to answer any questions, but I promised Frida and Sally that I would be brief if they would text me when they come over. So.
He thinks we forgot him.
I started to think maybe he did, and I'm sitting over here waiting on me.
It's not a very far drive from Pat Olson, is it?
No. I did not go. I did eat this morning, but I didn't eat out. I like Chubby's.
Chubby's pretty good.
You a Chubby's man? Because you live
I mean, I'm
with
pretty chubby.
No, I didn't mean that. Chris, I did not mean that. Did not mean that.
It is good.
They're the best hot dogs.
We know where to find you in Duffield.
Yeah, they got to bring their milkshakes back. Chubby's. Get that machine going again. fixed your road problem. Michelle, we fixed your road problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry it took so long. Anything else? Anything you want from me? Anything you want to ask for? Or fuss at me about?
We'll save it for next week.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Let's see. Supervisors' comments, requests, or recommendations? Anything from the supervisors today?
I do have my regular thing. Shall I go ahead and get started?
Sure.
I've had 11 calls regarding VDOT. Well, 11 calls, 5 from VDOT citizens' concerns, and they are being addressed. I asked Mr. Sumter to have a look at the Antioch trash site for possible improvements in striping and the passing lanes. Several accidents have occurred there. The engineers from Bristol, VDOT, did do a study, and they recommended it not change. So they're going to leave it like this. But they will be placing advanced warning signs. So we should be seeing some signage there. But that is a tricky area. The 6-year plan, paving, Greens Chapel, and Good Cooper. Paving is complete. Hill and Waters Chapel in Nicholsville, it's underway. They're doing an excellent job, the contractors. Some paving on schedule will be the High Knob federal money in the Devil's Fork, from Norton side. Spurlock Hollow in Duffield, Eaton Hill and Hilton's. And in 2025, Obie's Creek and Turkey Lick. The VDOT mowing crews are in Hilton's and Yuma secondary roads. The contractor Greenview has done 23. They're in Wadlow Gap Road and Highway 71 now. And the VDOT crews are doing Hilton's and Yuma secondary. I had no orange bags complaints. So that's it on VDOT. I did meet with at the ribbon cutting at the Clinch River in Copper Creek, DWA, Department of Wildlife Resources, Mr. Pender, and he works out of the Blacksburg office. He is interested in reintroducing a spot fin chub to the Clinch River. It was in there at one time, and due to Norris Dam and pollution, it became extinct. But they're wanting to reintroduce that, and he's wanting the board's support on that. He does plan to come to the September supervisors meeting to do a presentation. The species, that the spot fin chub, only appears in the Holston and Clinch River, so it's very rare. Are there any comments about that particular subject?
Is he coming asking for money or just like a letter of support?
Just basically support.
Okay.
Also, I talked to Nature's Conservancy while I was there, and since then I've gotten some communication from them. They're wanting to improve the launch sites on the Clinch River at their expense. So they'll be upgrading those sites.
Is that chub, is it a game fish? Or what kind of fish?
He had a picture of it. It's very small. It's not a game fish.
Okay,
It'd be hard to see, actually, probably, if you're just looking in the river.
right.
The next item is the mini cell towers. You may be aware that Lee County has recently put some in. And I did speak with they put in 6, and they worked with Scott County Telephone and doing that in some areas that they didn't have good coverage. Safety issue was one of the main things. I did speak with the Scott County representative, and they are working closely with the internet providers in doing that. And they have a mini system now that goes on top of a 60-foot telephone pole. That's what they used in Lee County. The cost of each of those units is about $40,000. Mr. Addington said that he felt like Scott County had a blackout area for cell coverage about 50%. So I would like to do some kind of a study to find out exactly where those areas are. If the board would be up for that. We maybe look at the potential for
You have to.
doing many.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, is which consultancy do it, but you're right, we would have to go out for
We
bid
have
for
to go
that.
for bid for that,
What's that?
to do a consult.
Well, I'm not looking for I'm just looking for basic. I know of 3 areas, just surveying this group. Now, Scott County Telephone has a lot of information already, but I think if we could identify specifically with their help and kind of, I know Dungannon has no coverage.
Dungan ain't never had very little. Seemed like it was better years ago than it is now.
I agree.
But the representative with Scott County said 2 of the many units would take care of Dungannon.
That'd be a great help for the people up in there since it's kind of out in a rural area.
Who would be paying for those units?
I'm not sure of the total thing. I think actually the county paid for some of the cost in Lee County. I don't know
So
what
we would have
funding
to buy
sources
that.
would be available.
And install those.
Pardon?
We'd have to buy and install.
The Scott County Telephone's doing the installation.
We still have to pay for it though.
And I don't have all the information on that, but I just think it might be worth pursuing. It solved a lot of their problems in Lee County.
Yeah, I think the other big thing too for cell phone coverage is getting landowners and getting everybody to agree on that too. You know, there was a tower go up in Clinchport within the last 2 or 3 months, and it was a little bit of a job to get everybody's clearance and approval on that. But, I mean.
Did you say they put them up on top of,
60-foot telephone poles.
put them up on top of the telephone
Yeah.
pole? Do they have to have permission from have to have any kind of
You'd have to
extra?
have a right of way from the
For
telephone
the
company.
telephone company to be able to.
Well, the telephone company actually did the installation.
Right, but you still just need to have them sign an agreement, even if it's free, that you agree to house that on there.
I just think it's worth pursuing, given the fact that 50% of the county is in a blackout as far as cell phones.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, about 50% because of the county, Nicholsville up in there, to pay Snowflake, that's about the extent at that. As soon as you come out of 58 back down through Washington County, as soon as you come into Scott County, you don't get anything till you get down there to about halfway between Hilton's and the Water Gap Road before you get any kind of signal fire. Up through Sinking, Dungannon.
I have no service around that.
Yeah, down 600 in Fairview, it's very spotty. Like you don't have it at your own Steve Street.
And even some days if you do have it, it don't mean you're gonna have it tomorrow. And-
Just the way the wind blows.
Yeah, if you wanna start looking into that and seeing who.
I think considering the safety issues, that there might be some possible grants. I don't know. But,
The other night at the Lenawisco meeting, they gave us the latest on the ARC funds that are available. They said that, well, the Gate City area, Weber City area, and I get these mixed up, the at-risk and disadvantage. But the at-risk, I think, is north of 58. And north of 58, they have access to, it's distressed, at-risk. And what they told us, I think, was that north of 58 has access to ARC money. So we could possibly go through Lenawisco for this and call it safety. And another place down there Eddie, do you remember down in the Fairview area? There was two north of 58, he mentioned. And he mentioned another place. It
Of course,
doesn't
it's
show-
influenced by the Kingsport job opportunities and income.
But there is ARC money available for those areas, and Weber City, Gate City has never been eligible for anything. But there is some money for that if you like to check into it.
Next item is the legislative session in Richmond. That is, we got the date the other night, when it was January 29th. What I would like to propose is that we identify the things we want to do in the county, our highest priorities. You mentioned roads, we want to address that. Develop a presentation based on the priorities. Schedule appointments with key people in Richmond. My first time last year, we didn't do any presentations or ask for anything last year. And I think I'd like to see us do that this year. Also, make our presentation, if we decide to do that, to Delegate Kilgore and Senator Pillion in advance of this, so they could have that on their agenda when they go to Richmond and do their work.
Did we not do any presentations?
Yes,
'Cause I thought there-
well, it was
we
the
did a
end of,
couple.
it was the end of the last year, in probably 3 years, we had asked for the pool at Natural Tunnel, which was $4 million. When we went into the recreation area,
We did.
I mentioned it to them, and they said Wise County and Norton, and some of our surrounding counties had already asked for it for us.
Yeah,
So
but-
that's $4 million we got last year.
Yeah, I agree. Having, some presentations lined up, but I thought last year was more of a learning experience for us to see what we could get from people. This year, we need to start asking for things.
Yeah, I think that's the reason you haven't. Go up and ask
Think
for
you hit the
something.
nail on the head.
But the areas that I would identify, I think the top priorities, the road funding, increase the pooling money, cell coverage, and economic development. I'd like to see a presentation for each of those three, and there's probably others that y'all might come up with. But I think, the legislators, I tried to meet with them in November, and I didn't realize then, they were pretty much, had everything, they were working on their projects so we need to let them know earlier what we want them to work on for Scott County. So that's why I bring it up now. The last thing I have is the EDA. We've been hearing at our meetings, and we heard again today, people are asking about economic development. Before I get into that, we did the $115,000 that came back. That wasn't part of their budget, so that came back to Scott County. That was on the retail survey. I asked for, contacted EDA office, asked for an update on Duffield, Dungannon, and Riverside. Anything going on with that? They had nothing new to add. I hear it constantly and heard it again today. People are asking, what about economic development? What's going on with River? They used to say Riverside. Are the other board members being approached by citizens when you're out in public? Is this a topic?
I hear it on a pretty regular basis. That's one of the, I'd say one of the most things that people ask me. And I guess we all heard a guy, I guess, made a joke out of it. That's the way I took it. Today, why don't y'all put solar panels on that property? And I've mentioned a time or two putting some type of medical center down there on it. Some of the citizens just told me, said they thought that was a pretty good idea. And they all like to know why that's been there for years and being vacant. I've even heard it looks like a big motel lit up, and they won't know why. We've got it all lit up and they're paying for it. them type of stories.
Is there anybody here that is not getting those concerns? Mr. Bricky,
I've never had a
nobody's asking
comment
about
or telephone call.
nobody's mentioned Riverside U.
Not in
Questions
5 years.
I've had comments, but I've been telling people to go to the EDA meetings because you will learn a lot if you go to the meetings. So that's what I've been telling people who have been contacting me, is to start going to the meetings and maybe you'll know a little bit more about what's going on with the county.
And John also does that quarterly report
Yeah.
for us, and that is nice. And I think the citizenry needs to know as well, you know, some of these deals we can't talk about. We're contractually bound not to talk about them.
Yes.
Until the organizations that either finance them or going to do them make that announcement. And, you know, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves in that and accidentally sink a deal.
Yeah, because that could happen.
Yeah, and I would hate to personally be the cause of being like, oh yeah, there is some development coming to this, you know, part, and being, you know, as open and honest as I can be with somebody, and that ends up sinking the deal. I think that's just counterproductive.
I just think that they really, if, you know, they are concerned because they wouldn't be calling out to us. But if they do want information, to go to these meetings and learn more. They've got a public comment session too during their meetings.
I've been to
So,
them before,
I
and
mean,
I'll probably
they could
go
go
on this.
there and voice, you know, what's going on, what are you doing with this property, what are you doing with that property, and maybe some of their, you know, concerns will be answered by asking those questions by going to the meetings. The meetings are posted on our website, so, and the times, so they can go to these meetings and check it out. Just like they can come here
Exactly.
and ask questions and stuff, they can also go to their meetings and maybe find out a little bit more.
I did go back to the minutes of the May meeting, and it was interesting, one of the board members, who I respect, is a successful businessman, he was talking about Morristown and I think Hamlin County. They said currently there's 200 houses under construction. And he went to those contractors, or those developers, and asked them why. And he said it was the leadership of the area. And this particular person on our EDA board did say our leadership needs to step up and get in front of this. So I think he was sending a signal.
How would you propose to get 500 new houses in Scott County? Because we do need that, and we've heard that from both, you know, Delegate Kilgore and other places that we need additional houses.
Yes.
And I think you can see from the house prices that the only thing that's going to drive housing down is to have an abundance of it. How would you propose to fix any of that?
I don't have the answer right now, but I think that's something we need to start trying to talk about or think about.
I've been hollering about this for months.
Yeah.
If we maybe would change the ordinance or something that would work better for the people in the county about breaking their land down or something like that, would be one thing that I'd suggest. I don't have the answer either.
Yeah, I worry about changing that ordinance because if we change it and they create subpar roads in there, then we become on the hook for those later on.
Well, we
And then it
did-
becomes a situation, Mr. Skeenan's talked about before, trying to bring roads into the Virginia system, and that's a lot harder than it sounds.
The last thing I wanted to cover, when people are asking me about economic development, and they usually say Riverside, they said, what's been added in the last 20 years, recruited, and been established, either industry or business, by our EDA?
They should come down to Duffield sometime because I can show them the footprint from when I was a kid of the factories down there.
The last 20 years.
Of the last 20 years.
I'm not talking about expansion, I'm talking about new recruits.
Expansions don't create jobs?
They asked what's been recruited in the last 20 years. Does anybody have, I couldn't think of anything. There might be something, but.
Most of what we've done has been expansion, especially
Which is
down my
good.
way.
It's good,
But it's been no new business is what Eddie's.
exactly.
more
And, you know, I hadn't thought about it, and somebody asked me, and I said, man, I didn't realize it'd been that long, but it has.
Do you go to the EDA board meetings?
I've read the minutes and I have been to meetings, yes.
Let me back up on what I said a while ago. You asked if I'd heard from anybody. I've not heard from anybody in Scott County, telephone or personal, but in Tennessee I have. And I can't discuss that because we talked about it in executive session. A lot of the comments I've heard from Tennessee.
I'm talking about citizens.
Not in-
Asking you about economic
No,
development.
then,
You said
no.
Nobody's ever
I
asked you.
I answered you correctly, then, no, I've not, in Scott County. I want to make sure I was speaking correctly.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
What you
Okay,
gotta
anybody
look
else
at-
have anything?
What you got to look at, Scott County don't have the money to give out like Bristol did and the places up that way. We don't have millions to give them out to come in, and that hurts us some.
All we've really got in Scott County is cheap land in comparison to some of these other places.
We can't give them millions of dollars to bring a Bass Pro in or something like that. We don't have the money,
I
we
think
never
that's
will
why we
have.
need to go to the state and try to get some money to them. Lena Wisco's getting things done regionally. Yeah. Go ahead.
Next on the agenda,
I think Stephanie had
I have something real quick.
and then I have one after that.
okay,
With the dog tag collection going to the veterinary's office, I would like to do a board consensus, I guess, maybe a motion to make, I don't think it necessarily needs to be, we don't have to rewrite that ordinance, but to be able to put that money in, to allow Kevin to put that money into a separate line item specifically for the animal shelter, so that we know, so we can keep track of that. Is that okay to do it like that?
we talked to Kevin during the break, and I think he's supposed to see Sally, right, Frida?
That was my suggestion, to get with her to make sure we didn't need to change the ordinance,
Well,
the language in it.
okay.
And then put it in the budget next year in a line item.
Mhm.
He just takes it and
He just-
puts it down there now.
Right,
We have an animal shelter fund.
Right.
It would just go there.
okay,
And then next year, make a line item.
okay. So we don't need to do anything?
We'll follow it. We'll make sure, we'll read everything and make sure.
Just want to make sure that,
Well,
and just for the record.
He knows that's
I
what.
do support you in that, and I think that's a good idea.
And for the record, it's $5 for 1 year when you go to the vet and get your dog, your rabies vaccines. It's $10, but you can, $10 for 3 years. So you can think of that as, making a contribution to the animal shelter, because that money is just going to go directly to them, and I love that. So it won't be a whole lot, but it will be something, and
It'll
they
be
can use
helpful.
every penny they get. So I really,
I'm with you, I think that's one of the better things that
thanks.
we really could do, because
And that way everybody can help a little bit.
well, you got any kind of heart, you're gonna think where your money's not being given away, it's
Right.
going back to
Yes,
the animals.
every bit of it. And the whole $5 or the whole $10, whatever you want to do on that, so. Okay, that's all I have.
Go ahead, you got something, I'll just end with my comment.
Mexico, I mentioned the subdivision ordinance, Sally's got it there with her. She looked it up, how it runs. You said the housing, and the biggest thing we had here was cheap land. So we're going to have to figure out how the cheap land is going to work to get the housing and get some revenue in here. And, but you said you didn't want to change the ordinance.
That particular portion of the ordinance, I think there's other things that we can do to attract housing.
Like apartments,
It would be nice, wouldn't
but if that's what you want.
it? I mean, apartments is getting more people in here, and more people means more money for the county, but it also means a better population that potential employers could pull from. Getting houses in here, getting any type of housing, any type of housing. It's a win for Scott County.
When we was in Richmond, didn't they tell us they needed 500 houses, and they even lost maybe a business because there wasn't enough housing here to, the people moved here because we couldn't support it. So, I mean,
It's a hard road to walk because you got a lot of people that want to preserve their farms, which would, be perfect for development, but they don't want to let them go, and I can't blame them for that. It's
I wouldn't want to let mine go.
exactly. It's an issue that we're going to have to figure out. I'll start noodling on that as soon as we can get some daycares in here. If you want to keep noodling on.
you gotta have population and people before you need a daycare. If there ain't no people.
You gotta have services before you can get population in here. I was talking to somebody in Duffield yesterday, or the day before. They drive to Lynn Garden every morning to drop their kids off. They come back to Duffield to work, and then they drive back to Lynn Garden in the afternoon to pick up their kid. That's probably an hour and 15 minutes that they're on the road each way, or each time they go to pick them up and drop them off. That's 2 hours.
Every day.
Their quality of life is suffering because we don't have the necessary amenities for parents. And I think that's something that we need to start. Scott County's population is aging. And there's not many kids that are staying here. In fact, when I first moved into our neighborhood in Thomas Village, everyone came up and was excited because there was children in the neighborhood again. I heard it from a lot of the residents. So we need to figure out what we can do to make it successful, make us successful and attractive to people. But to end off my comments, I just want to say, school starts back soon, and we wish all the students of Scott County well, and do your best this year, and we'll do our best. That's it.
Any other comments? We do need to go into closed session today. We have 2 items. Number 3, real estate, Gate City. And number 5, prospective industry in Duffield and Weber City. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Castile made the motion, Mr. Manus second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. On a motion by Mr. Castile.